Dun 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 dun.
No, we'll get to that later. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome to After Hours
podcast on the internet, Stacked Podcast. Which is interestingly, did you know? I learned this from my girlfriend. If sometimes Spotify will recommend you Stacked as a as an LGBTQ podcast.
Yeah,
let's go.
Even though we're all gendered men.
Yep, and straight as a fucking nail. Oh my god.
We're allies though.
I find that funny that it recommended her that after episode 69 when we all got naked for each other.
Maybe they listened and they were like, "This is kind
They're
of."
like, "Oh damn, no, get these gay boys into the LGBTQ."
Well, here we are.
Hey, it's the best podcast any ally could listen to. Let's just
one could say,
because that's what we all are. Anyways, welcome back to Stacked, another episode of After Hours.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
It's been a while for the. I mean, it hasn't been too long.
For After Hours.
For After Hours, it has. Oh yeah, it hasn't. When was the last one we did?
It was the one that I did where I.
Sheldon. That was so fun.
That was a good episode. Classic.
But yeah, it seems like After Hours is basically 50% our MCU talk show.
Yeah.
Next we'll do Best Picture stuff, right?
Yeah,
we'll do next one will probably be an Oscars one.
Let's do an Oscars one.
Or a Batman one. I don't know.
No.
Doesn't matter.
No.
I veto.
Veto. Fuck Batman, as Robin would say.
His parents died.
Spoilers.
For who? Who doesn't know Batman's origin story? Who's listening to the Stacked podcast?
Chris's dad. Remember?
He just knows of a Batman.
He just knows of a Batman, but he doesn't know who Batman is.
He knows of a Batman.
Okay.
But my dad doesn't listen to podcasts, so Brandon's right. Why doesn't my dad listen to my podcast?
It's okay. My dad doesn't listen either. That's all right. Does your dad listen to Stack, Brandon?
Sometimes. He hasn't listened to the whole filmography of our library.
It's more of a discography. Would you call it that than a tapeography? What's a podcast?
It is more of a discography than a filmography, but
yeah.
Well, it's something.
Well, this is a great time for us to announce that we're releasing the first 50 episodes of Stacked on CD. If you want to buy them, listen to them in the car. I don't know. Go on. It's good for road trips.
Real quick, I did want to ask the audience this because I have in case anyone wants to throw me some feedback. Yeah. Guys, I remember a little while ago I told you about how on Christmas I watched Home Alone and recorded a solo commentary track.
Yeah.
If you guys are interested in commentary tracks, let us know because I would love to do that. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we'll record the whole movie.
And that's such an easy thing to do on
PS4.
On Discord. No, we don't even have to be. We can just do it right here. Watch a movie, synced up, easy.
Yeah, and we could also hypothetically, you could also very easily do individual commentary tracks if you particularly want to talk about a movie. Anyway, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about Marvel.
Yeah. Marvel. Brandon's got the Captain America. Yeah, Chris, you wanna kick this off? You're a good After Hours host. You're really good at rolling this up. So
sure.
I'm very terrible at hosting anything.
Brandon, you're a great host. Wait, let's let Brandon host. Brandon.
No, I don't want to host today.
Okay, fine. Chris, take it over.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with the movie that is, I think, the furthest removed from all the other ones. Let's start with Eternals. Chloe Zhao's Eternals.
Good movie.
Wait. So.
Yeah, wait.
Can we just say okay? So we're doing a little review and discussion of the second half of Marvel's 2021 projects, right? That's what this whole episode's about.
Yes.
So we covered Loki, WandaVision, and Black Widow in the last one, right?
Yes, we've gone up to Black Widow.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about what order should we do? Should we do in release order? Or do you want to do Eternals first? Because we haven't talked about Shang Chi.
Let's do Shang Chi. I feel like that's also pretty removed anyway.
Yeah.
So
let's do
this. We'll do Shang Chi. We'll go to Eternals. We'll do What If, and then am I forgetting something?
Hawkeye.
Spider-Man?
Let's do Spider-Man. Let's do Spider-Man last.
Yeah, because that's a big one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let's start with Shang Chi.
It's been so long since I've seen this movie.
It's been a while, but I will say, I know all three of us really like that movie. It is my personal favorite Marvel project this year in 2021.
Mine too.
Brandon, is it the same for you?
Mm-mm.
No. What was your number?
Oh
one?
wait, no.
Oh,
sorry, no. It's my third.
Yeah. Is Eternals your number one, Brandon?
No, I got Loki at number one.
Oh right, Loki. Right.
Well,
but,
of the ones we're talking about today,
about.
this is my favorite.
Absolutely. Yeah, of the ones we're talking about today, it is my favorite for sure. Okay, well, why don't we start? Yeah, so Shang-Chi, I don't know. What can we say about Shang-Chi? Like, the guy, they fucking killed it. I think they did a great job with this movie. It's so much fun. They did a great job with bringing forward this new superhero. It is an origin story, but I think they distinguished themselves enough from the Marvel origin story formula to make it at least somewhat new and exciting. The setting is fantastic. The fights are great. Do they want to chime in? I don't know. I don't really know how to get going on this. But...
Yeah. Brandon, sorry, you go.
No, you go.
No, you go.
You go. No, you go.
No,
baby.
darling, you go.
No, come on. Come on, man.
I don't know. I was just gonna jump. I didn't even know what I was gonna say. You probably have something to say. I was just gonna start rambling. So you go.
Oh no,
Let me
you
collect
go
my
first.
thoughts.
No, you.
No.
You guys.
Okay. All right. Shang-Chi. This was my biggest surprise, I think, of 2021 of Marvel's slate, just because, like Doctor Strange for me, like going into this movie, I knew practically nothing about the character and the world, which made the experience all the better for me in discovering who Shang-Chi is and what is the more martial arts side of the MCU, outside of Iron Fist, which I think is very, its own thing. But I'd love to see Iron Fist reintroduce the character in a Shang-Chi 2 or 3. I think that would be a perfect opportunity, as they are sort of slowly bringing back Netflix characters, which we will definitely get into this episode. I think one of my favorite things about this year. But yeah, this Dustin Daniel Cretton killed this movie. The fight scenes, the choreography is some of the best we've seen in the MCU. The story is so touching. I mean, they got some high caliber cast for this movie. Fucking
yeah.
Oh my god.
Let's talk about
Tony
the elephant in the room. Tony fucking Leung.
Oh my god.
Aquafina. Oh.
Aquafina, dude.
But yeah,
Brandon.
Tony Leung, fucking the man. I mean, it's no secret that Tony Leung is one of my favorite actors. I've loved him since I first got into film because, I mean, yeah, the guy's synonymous with my home, Hong Kong, and he fucking ruled it. I thought he did such a great job. For anyone who doesn't know, Tony Leung has a nickname in Asia with as an actor. His nickname translates to the man who can act with his eyes, which is not only a compliment to his dashing good looks, which I think everybody has labeled Wenwu as MCU's newest DILF. But not only that, but also a testament to his superb acting ability. The guy, Ethan, I remember when we walked out of the movie, you said if there's any actor who can convince you that they have 1,000 years of wisdom behind their eyes, it's probably Tony Leung. And I would agree. Brandon, from the movies you have seen with Tony Leung in them, you've been a big fan of his performances. What do you think about his performance as well as just Shang-Chi as a whole?
I think he just brings something different to Shang-Chi, in comparison to the energy of the rest of the MCU. I think you can draw parallels to other stories within the MCU that have a similar dynamic, but here it felt oddly played differently. Well, like you think the first comparison you can make is like Ego and Peter Quill in Guardians 2, but here it feels much more intimate because there was more of a father-son relationship to begin with rather than something that was like missing from a person, and they kind of filled in the gaps with a 30-year reunion essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas here it was like sort of this remarkable father-son story played like Shakespearean, and it worked for me. It really did. I mean, it focused on the personal first before getting into the magical, surreal world that the movie presents in the end. Mm-hmm. And I think Tony Leung is probably one of the best villains of the MCU. I don't even know if I could call him a villain necessarily because of the way the film plays him.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the way
like
his
a misled guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Big time simp. Let me tell you.
Big time simp. That boy was horny. He was horny.
900. He would kill for you. Just letting you know.
Let's say, man.
Kill.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shang-Chi was great. I think one thing that I did really like about how they adapted this for the big screen is they made the rings more like bracelets and used them. Dude, I watched like some behind the scenes like mini documentary about the film and how they made it, and like one thing that they talked about a lot in terms of the way they would do their fight choreography and integrating the rings into that is that they didn't think the way they approached it wasn't, hey, how do we make these rings look cool on screen? The way they approached it was, hey, how do we use the rings to enhance our already fantastic fight choreography? You know, and like how do we use them as weapons? How do we use them as defensive? And how do we like integrate them as like extensions of the character? You might notice that towards the end of the film, when Wu and Shang-Chi are fighting, Shang-Chi's like use of the rings is a lot more defensive, and Wen Wu is a lot more, I guess, shall I say, like, I don't know, confrontational. I don't know how else to describe it, but like you can feel like the rings are extensions of the characters when they're used, and I think they did a great job. Shang-Chi is a really fun addition to the MCU, and I'll just say, like, yeah, he like being like the first like Asian lead role in the MCU. It's really exciting for like I've seen like how much people like all across the world have responded to Shang-Chi because you know it's our Black Panther, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, you know, it means a lot to a lot of people, and like I'm excited that Shang-Chi is going to be hopefully a long-term installation for the MCU going forward, and I think it's an exciting time. It's a very fun and very heartfelt movie. Surprisingly heartfelt, actually.
I feel like it's surprising that it is so fresh. Because we haven't had a true origin story in a while, and it didn't feel. Although there are similarities.
What was it an origin for, though? You know,
just
like
Sean,
right?
Just Sean, yeah, Sean.
And he's not even a titled hero. He's just himself. You know?
Yeah,
he's just Shang-Chi.
He doesn't have a secret.
Secret
identity.
No, he kind of does though, because he has to use because he was Sean at the beginning, and it's like
Sean. Yeah.
To me, it sort of felt like sort of how Clark Kent is the secret identity for Superman, where like
when everybody knows this.
Where it's like he starts out the movie as Sean, this dude who like he's rejected his family and like his heritage and himself, and by facing Wen Wu and like the 10 rings and everything like that, he like sort of accepts himself and his heritage and his identity, and that's why he then goes by Shang-Chi, you know? And that's sort of an interesting origin story even in itself of like reclaiming your name, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a really cool modern, like I feel like a very resonant thing with people from like first generation families, you know? who are struggling with like wanting to recreate yourself and rejecting your family when you come to America, but like this movie's teaching you like to accept your heritage and find power within that, even if there is like some messed up stuff in it, if there may be, which is like that's super cool. And that's super cool that we have that sort of story told in the MCU, you know?
I mean, it also like took so many different directions that I don't think we're used to in the MCU.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think or in this movie, like structurally I knew what the first half was going to be, but the second half kind of surprised me. And you can make an argument that the last 30 minutes of the movie don't really pop like the rest of the film because it does seem a little CGI heavy. But I think it's still remarkable in what it's able to accomplish and surprising and subverting audience expectation with like a smaller, more personal story.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think Shang-Chi is like a really, really fun and really exciting addition to the MCU. I don't think anybody like I feel like largely this film was very well received. Um and yeah, I think everybody's looking forward to seeing what Shang-Chi does going forward. I mean, spoiler alert, but in the post-credit scene, he's pretty much like immediately brought into the Avengers because he uh Bruce Banner himself says welcome to the circus or something like that.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Avengers. Also, real quick, I do want to bring this up before we move on to our next thing, but Aquafina is a lot bigger of a role in this than I thought.
Yeah.
Is she gonna be an Avenger Archer now?
I don't know.
I
can't
honestly,
She went
that's
with him.
that's one of my least favorite parts of the movie is like how much they relied on Aquafina sort of to step up as a hero and why she's joined. It doesn't really make any sense because she like just learned how to use a bow and arrow. Like, I don't know. She's just there to be Shang-Chi's support. I mean, it's cool to have like supporting characters, you know, like
it's a good
to me,
platonic male-female
she
relationship.
seems more like Ant-Man's friends, you know, like Luis, and she's more like a Luis character to me. But,
I think it's a little bit more meaningful than that because her character is like representative of male-female platonic relationships that are like so absent in Hollywood film. Now it could turn into a romance. I'm not saying it won't. I hope it doesn't.
I hope it does.
I hope it doesn't either.
But yeah.
Very cool.
But I think it works. I agree though that it does feel shoehorned in at the end that she goes with them. I don't know about it. I wouldn't mind if she was there.
I mean,
I just wish
it makes sense why she would go with them, but I just hope they don't make her an Avenger. You know, like she was there with Shang-Chi when Wong came to go get them. So of course
maybe a West Coast Avenger, but not an Avenger.
Damn. Okay.
Well, great.
Also, one last thing.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
love that they made Shang-Chi like a heavy hitter Avenger. Like he is worthy to stand up there with Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor in terms of his power set now. Because that's what I was worried about going in. I was just like, oh, so he just knows martial arts? Like, okay, is he?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I don't want him to
How's
be like
he gonna fight Thanos?
I don't want him
bro?
to be like a Black Widow Hawkeye character where like he's just using martial arts on hordes of aliens or hordes of Kangs that we'll see in the future, you know.
This guy's awkward.
This dude
Powerful.
has like now like people were saying like the final scene of Shang-Chi was like Dragon Ball levels by the way he was like using the orbs, the rings, and shooting him out like a Kamehameha or something, you know, like oh my god.
Yeah, I am very excited
super
to see
cool.
how they go with them going forward.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's actually. I think we should move on to Hawkeye before we go into the next. So let's talk Hawkeye.
So we're gonna skip a what if.
I think we should do what if before we do Spider-Man because there is a slight.
Oh yeah,
then,
I forgot.
Yeah, and then
Eternals.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But let's do Hawkeye. So does anyone want to start us with Hawkeye?
Solid show.
Yeah, fun show.
I'm a big fan of the David Aja series. So, seeing that it was marketed a lot, taking inspiration from that series, and like, how Clint is betrayed in that comic run, left me a little bit disappointed, I must say, in the series, just because, I sort of miss sort of the substance and stylization of that I thought I was going to get here by its marketing, but it does present like a very interesting dynamic between and it brings in a really fresh new character in Kate Bishop, you know, and her with Clint Barton. I think that's what this show is all about. This was establishing her as the new Hawkeye and like this new relationship between the two, and I think in that sense it did succeed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then of course it did something that just made me so very happy. It brought back boy, one of the MCU's greatest villains, Wilson Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. I would say I feel like he was a little misused and underused in the show, but the potentiality is there, you know? I think he's going to come back in a big way and be a huge heavy-hitting force in the MCU. So, I'm excited. What do you guys think?
I think for me, like, Hawkeye was a very, like, it was surprisingly refreshing for me to watch Hawkeye, because I think for a long time now we've been dealing with these much more like cosmic, mystical, like very heavy, big, like giant scope, like Avengers level threats. And then now we're like, hey, we're back on the ground with this character, and I think they did a great job with it. I was surprised. I was like happy to see that like Hawkeye finally got a little bit of time to like develop his character a little bit. It was nice to like, maybe it was not like nice to see, but like it was. I'm glad that they developed him in the sense of like you see how much the events of the previous movies has affected him physically. With his he's now like partially deaf. And like he also has like some emotional damage from what has happened in his life, like not only as Ronin, but also just like coming to terms with what happened with Natasha, and just like how the Avengers have like affected the world and stuff like that. And like, I mean, it says it like it says it all when he goes to see the Steve Rogers play on Broadway. The look on his face is just like, I mean, that's everybody's face when they're watching it, because it's the cringiest thing.
Yeah.
But I think they did a great job with making him feel more human and like kind of developing him more. A nice introduction to Kate Bishop. I definitely it did take me a little while throughout the series to warm up to their dynamic, but eventually I think they kind of found their footing a little bit better. I don't know. It wasn't anything particularly special to me. It wasn't like a series that I'm going to be like, oh, I got to rewatch that. But like, I thought for what it was fine. And it came out in the holiday season. So yeah, for me, I don't know. It was perfectly fine for me. And that's all I wanted. And that's what I got. So yeah. Brandon, do you have anything you want to add about Hawkeye?
I think it's a good show. I don't love it. I think, like Ethan, I think it does leave you a little disappointed in terms of like what it sets up and then what it ends up being. I think these MCU shows have had a hard time sticking the landing. I think that's the biggest issue I've had with all of them. Is that they've all... I think WandaVision's is overblown because everybody was expecting something that thematically just didn't make sense. And
Loki's is great, though.
Loki's is good. Loki's is good,
is the best one. That one's amazing.
And then the other two shows, one we haven't mentioned yet, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, both have decent wrap-ups, but like they are really hammed up. Like there are a few things in both of those finales that make me go, huh?
Puzzle pieces forced together and make you go,
yeah,
what? All right.
This was either put together too quickly, and I think that's because these MCU shows are just figuring themselves out. This is the first time Marvel is attempting true TV, and it does feel cinematic, which is great. And I don't hate that, but I think there is definitely some good in there. I think they have good chemistry. I think episodes 3 and 4 are some of the best MCU television we've gotten. I think that's where the show should have more focused in on. Not saying I don't like Kingpin's introduction.
Yeah.
But I feel like if he was going to be a presence in the show, having him be the main villain constantly throughout would have worked so much better. And having Echo just be like a henchman that is, turning good by the end would have made thematic sense. But they shoveled too much in there.
To me,
there was a sorry, go ahead, Ethan.
No, sorry. To me, it just feels like Marvel they're struggling through this problem of how do we get our viewers to come back week to week, and it seems like with these first shows, their sort of formula for that is we need to set up this main villain that people lose their minds over by the time the show's over, you know? They did that with WandaVision, Loki, now this one. They did that in Falcon the Winter Soldier 2 with the Power Broker, you know? And I'm tired of it, you know? I don't think
it's good setup, but it's so formulaic.
It's good setup. Like... I think it worked really well in WandaVision and Loki because those were more mystery shows, where this one did not need to be a mystery, I feel.
Neither did Falcon, you know?
So, I don't know.
Even What If, to a certain extent, makes a little more sense, but it doesn't work as well.
That's not really a mystery, though. That was just like... They just had that last, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll talk about What If later, but yeah, I'm done with reveal villain at the end of
new costume,
either penultimate episode, and then have them defeated in the last episode, you know?
Yeah, it would have been nice. Yeah, you guys are right. I do think the series does have this problem of like it is overstuffed. There's a lot of like going on that's like feels like by the end it's kind of like inconsequential towards what's really going on here. Like, I mean, okay, so you have like Bishop, you have Bishop's mom, and then you have like the fiance, and then you have Yelena, and then you have Hawkeye and what he's doing. You have the guys in the what's it?
So
tracksuit mafia,
Echo, and then you have like her brother?
Is it her brother?
Kazi is like her friend and like a student. Like apparently he was like the kid she was playing karate with in her origin episode.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay.
And he just was raised in the same system.
Yeah, so like it is overstuffed. There's a lot of good in there, and I think they could really play with some of that stuff. But there's just a bit too much, and I think they bit off a bit more than they could chew in 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, though, it's a fine series. Like,
yeah,
I enjoyed it.
I think it flirted with gritty, which I really was hoping that it would go more deep into. Because especially episode 3, like, I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but episode 3 of Hawkeye is like up there with some of my favorite MCU content of the year. I watched that episode like 4 times. Whereas, like, the only other episodes I did that with were the last episode of Loki and maybe, like, the 2nd or 5th episode of Loki. Just because I love those. 4th episode, not 5th. And that's because it showcases the action that you'd expect from a more street-level hero. It has a great origin of, like, a great underknown or underseen, overlooked character in Echo. And it's beautifully done. And not only that, but it seamlessly integrates elements from the rest of the MCU without feeling forced.
Right.
But then the rest of the show feels a little toned down, especially the last episode, which is like kind of why it was a little disappointing. I didn't think it was bad, just, you know, it's fine. That's the worst of the MCU is when it's just fine, bro.
Yeah. It's like, the thing is, like, MCU, like, they regularly put out, like, good. Like, at least good.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, and from time to time, they'll put out great or amazing. But when they're fine, it's kind of just frustrating because you know they can do better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like getting a C in your report card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's get a B. Let's at least get a B. But
and let's talk about something that I think was just fine. Eternals.
Go for it.
Shut up. You're wrong.
A little less than fine.
Ethan, why don't you start since you're the least warm, you're least into it. I'm middle. Brandon's most into it.
Yeah. So, I had the pleasure of seeing this movie with some of the crew that worked on it at the El Capitan Theater, like a couple of days before it was released, which was a super fun experience. I don't know if you guys ever been to the El Cap, but like beautiful theater. And I just remember just being like, okay, that happened. I don't know. It was just very. I think the biggest problem of Eternals is that Chloe Zhao is introducing way too many characters and a plot that is way too big for Disney's shoes that they were trying to convey. There's too much exposition and re-exposition in the movie. Things are paced very oddly, jumping back through time and back to the present, skipping through scenes. There are literally scenes where characters are standing here saying, okay, time to go. And really, as they say go, it cuts to like a ship flying off, and it's just like it's a jarring edit where this movie is directed to be slow, but it then is edited to be like a fast-paced blockbuster, you know? And that just didn't gel with me. What I did love was I still love the lore. I love the lore of the show. I think I love the exposition. Like, even though it's over-explained to hell, I think it's cool as fuck. I think the third act is fucking amazing. I think it is one of the best third acts in any MCU film. I think Chloe Zhao has seen the movie End of Evangelion and wanted to pay homage to that in this film, which always makes me a little happy boy, you know? But yeah, I never found any of the characters interesting. I don't care if we ever see any of the Eternals ever again. We will. I know we will. And they'll probably make me like them, but just like from now, this is how I felt like watching the first Thor, you know? It's just like, okay. You know, it's very first Thor, first Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2 level for me. Bottom tier. I don't know. I could take or leave Eternals. But I want to buy it on Blu-ray because the Target exclusive Blu-ray looks cool as fuck. So I'm going to buy that. It'll look good on my shelf. So Chris, what did you think of Eternals?
Eternals I thought was good. I think they did a great job with like handling the scale of it all. It's a very big movie in terms of sheer scope. I think it's the biggest individual MCU film we've had, maybe arguably since Endgame. I mean, like comparably to Endgame, but yeah, I think they did a good job. I think it's like I think Chloe Zhao did a good job, at least to me, of being able to kind of like, even with this giant scale, they still have a humanity to all the characters, and there's a humor to all of them. I actually like was surprised that I actually know all of their names. Like I didn't have really any trouble memorizing all of their names, and usually that's something that I have trouble with.
Kingo.
But
Makari.
Yeah, like Makari. Anyway. Sorry.
Oh.
I like the Eternals girls. Anyway. But anyway, hold on, that threw me off.
Whoa, we threw him off.
Yeah, I think it had like I might be reading too far into this, but I thought the film's philosophy was also really interesting, talking about like humanity and how destructive we are, but also how worth saving we are. It reminds me. I remember I wrote about how it reminds me of like ancient Greek plays like Eumenides, which I had to study when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, free will, determinism. There's all that stuff there. You could probably write a paper about this movie if you really wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah, I think largely it's very good. Are certainly some things that I don't like about this movie. I will agree with you, Ethan, about the editing. Not in the sense of that in that aspect, but I do think there were some jarring cuts, like for example, or like certain like creative choices in the dialogue that I was like, oh, okay. Like for example, when in the beginning when Icarus and what's her name?
Cersei.
Cersei. Now I already forgot her fucking name.
I know all the Eternals' names. Like
I knew him. I got it.
I knew him.
Yeah. So Icarus introduces himself to Cersei on that ship. And they go up to the window. They see Earth for the first time. They see this home, the place that they're gonna call home for years, for like generations going forward. They're looking at it. It's beautiful. And then she looks at it, and and Cersei says like, "Isn't it beautiful?" And then Richard Madden just looks at her like, and just like, "I'm Icarus," and then it just cuts to like the next scene.
Yeah.
There are just little things like that throughout the movie that I'm just like, oh no. But largely, that doesn't bother me all that much. Just something that I want to throw out there. Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. I am excited to see what they do with this going forward, because these are definitely the most powerful people in the MCU right now, at least from what I would guess.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci.
So Joe Pesci.
What? Joe Pesci. He's the most powerful.
So yeah, we'll have to see. But I am excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and yeah, can't wait to find out. Brandon, I know you like this movie.
This movie has grown on me more and more. I've seen it twice. But I honestly could see it more. I remember Ethan coming home from the premiere, and I was like super excited because Eternals was my most anticipated Marvel movie of the year, even more so than No Way Home, I think. But then Ethan said, "I don't think I ever want to watch that movie again," and I said, "Wow, I'm not crushed, but okay." And I watched it, and I was like, "There is a reason why this movie is really divisive." You know, I've seen all kinds of like discourse around this movie. It's like, oh, it's the worst MCU movie by far. There's like nothing worse than it. It feels like it's pandering in terms of its like diversity, blah blah blah. Like genuine like critics saying that versus like just the social justice warrior anti channels, you know, the ones on YouTube. And then there's like people who are like, this is just okay or an all right MCU entry. There's people who are saying it's good, like Chris. And then there are some people who are like, this is the best MCU property ever. And I'm somewhere between Chris and the best MCU property ever because I do think it has its issues. Like, Sprite is a weak character, poorly portrayed by the. I think a lot of.
Sprite is so annoying.
It's a deviant.
I think, holy shit, is that a deviant?
Holy shit, is that a deviant? I was
like,
that was the moment for me where I was like, okay, well.
Well, we've had
a good run.
I think a lot of reviewers are being too nice to child actors if they're not very good, and I think they are with this girl 100% because it's like her line delivery throughout the whole movie is flat, and you might be able to say, hey, that's because she's not really attached to humanity like most of the other ones, but there are some people who are not attached to humanity at all in the movie who exhibit more human characteristics than she does, you know? And it hurts to think about and like whatnot, but like I think it's a fantastic, well-made movie. It differs from the Marvel formula. It doesn't go big army in the sky, big portal in the sky. Instead, it opts for a more like personal story between each of these 10 people. And although I agree with certain aspects of people saying, well, we don't see enough of the Eternals caring for humanity or why there is a reason to care, when the reason is all around us as an audience. Now, it is an excuse to make that's lazy as a filmmaker not to integrate into the film. I think it would make it far more crowded because the film already had a lot more to do with its individual setting up of each character. And I think it did a great enough job with those 10 characters to the point where I was like, I understand where they're coming from. There is a lot to love about humanity, but there's also a lot to hate about humanity. And I think they captured that divisiveness well because of their emotions and how they evolved from the beginning, where, you know, Icarus laughably delivers flat lines and then is like somewhat becomes a compelling character, like a strong, I think, twist villain. It surprised me.
I haven't talked about that at all. Like, I don't.
It surprised me
Icarus
personally.
becoming the villain, because like I thought he was like the main hero. Like whenever I read about Eternals and stuff, I was like, "Is this dude's like the main hero?"
He is, and I read the beginning comic book run. I've been following it for like months, and I've been reading up on Eternals because it's genuinely something that interests me. And I think the twist is actually very, very subversive and shocking, as somebody who read those books. Now, if you didn't read those books, I don't think it would be as moving or even surprising necessarily, because in the film, like, they show you the trailer so many times that you know that there's other scenes with Icarus and Ajax, and Ajax is dead at the beginning of the movie. So you're like, wait a minute, hold up.
That's true.
But like, from that standpoint, you're like, well, maybe he knows more than he's letting on, but I don't think he's the villain. But I actually think it's a very good choice. So I liked it. I don't understand how anybody could really hate that move.
To me, I didn't hate it. I was just like, okay. Like, I knew the dude was like the main hero. It was like so out of left field. They're like, let's make the main hero the villain.
I don't think it was out of left field though.
I guess so, but like, I don't know. It was so unexpected that I was felt more confused than like actually like feeling like the betrayal. You know, I was like, wow, okay, that was crazy.
His goal was to stall them, and he succeeded. And I think that brings about such an interesting concept. Just read the Ultimates, both runs of the Ultimates, the Ultimates 1 and Ultimates 2. And the way it portrays the cosmic MCU is the way that the Eternals movie does. And I don't feel like there's a better representation of it in movie form than Eternals. Like, it's better than the Guardians movies in terms of capturing that aspect of the comic books. And it's little dry. Yes, I agree with that critique, but I actually kind of like it because it sets it apart from the rest. And to get such an alien director to blockbusters like a Chloe Zhao, whose work, like, you could see how, like, Taika's work would translate to the MCU, but we were all talking about how is the Eternals going to even look before there was a trailer and or poster for the movie, you know? We were all like, how is this going to look? And I think she made a movie that was a Marvel movie, yes, but I think she also made her own Chloe Zhao-like movie. Right. And it worked for me. I do have issues with it, but I really liked it. And the Celestial stuff, my God.
So cool.
So fucking cool.
I really do think they're planting seeds for Galactus with that. I think just how, you know, they've sort of combined other things in the MCU, like just combining multiple ideas to make things a bit more simple and streamlined from the comics. I think they're gonna somehow tie Galactus to as a celestial being, of like, maybe there's like a deviant form of celestial who, like,
he is kind of a celestial in the comics, though.
Yeah,
I don't think that's like far off.
Yeah, so
he's like an offshoot of the Celestials in the comic books, based on his origin in the book I read.
Mm-hmm. So I'm dying to see what happens.
Yeah. Before we move on to our next property,
yes,
I do want to ask, who is your guys' favorite Eternal? Just because there's so many of them, everybody has a different favorite. Just a character that you enjoy.
Favorite.
Pick one that you thought was entertaining. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Oh man.
All right, why don't I start? You can name 3 because I know there's so many. My favorites were Gilgamesh, Phastos, and Kingo. Yeah, I like those.
Wow,
guys.
only
men.
Cool.
They're really. Hey,
Phastos. Okay, he was the IKEA.
Hey, they're all POCs,
guy.
Brando. Oh yeah. Best joke of 2021 was
you fucking right. What? This guy's gonna choose Icarus, I bet.
No, I'm not gonna choose Icarus.
He's gonna pick Druig. You're gonna pick Druig.
Druig, the literal fascist character that's shown as a hero. Yeah, pick him.
No,
that was such a bizarre subplot. Can I just say, like,
I liked it because I thought Druig was gonna be a villain.
No, everyone's depicted as a villain, but why was he? He's done horrible shit, like incredibly fascist and imperialist shit. Like, he's still mind controlling people in South America.
He realizes it's wrong, though.
He doesn't.
No, he does, though. He's like, it became. I watched it a second time, so I feel like I have a little bit more here.
Okay. Okay. Well, I saw it with Marvel employees, so I feel like I have a little leverage myself. No, I don't.
Well, you should maybe watch it again because it's more.
Oh, okay.
To pick up little details. Because if you're talking about how Druig, he mentions, like, it's not a regret he has. He feels like he did something right, but at the same time, it didn't sit right with him because it made them not human anymore.
Yeah.
By what he was doing, and that's itself a comment on the idea of fascistic intent of what he's doing. Like, yeah, you might see it and be like, hey, like, I'm doing the right thing by keeping these people from killing one another, but on the same time, they're not human anymore.
Right.
And that's why he walks away in the end. Mm-hmm. Also because he's, like, going to save the world and the humans that he cares about, because he spent hundreds of years with this colony that he's created. And you don't know if he's been, like, mind controlling them the whole time. Like, maybe they've developed a personal relationship with them. Now, I wish they would have shown that, but I liked it.
It didn't seem like they did. I don't know if there's a mind controlling.
My favorite Eternal is not Druig, okay? My favorite Eternals are Makari, Cersei, and Phastos.
My favorite is Makari, I gotta say. Like, in terms of, like, just power set alone, I think...
Yeah, I will say they handled a speedster really well in this movie for some reason. Yeah, they just did it really well.
Like they handled the speedster like I feel like they handle the Flash in like the Injustice video games. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like where like his speed is used as a strength in that game, and you could feel Makari's strength as she like beats the shit out of Icarus, like the thuds and like using like just the speed, like the force of speed, not the speed force, just to, like knock him back and stuff. It's not strength, it's just speed, and that's also really cool to see that used.
I want to mention Athena wasn't one of my favorite Eternals, but I loved what they did with her character. It's so weird to have Angelina Jolie in a role where she is not the lead. And I don't love Angelina Jolie as an actress, but I loved what they did with her character and making her like mentally incapacitated, but she found her way on her own through her grief and through her pain. And I love that because it is a very human thing to put somebody through. It's like, I don't want to lose my memories and thoughts of what is and who I love. And it's so fascinating to have that character that weakened, but at the same time so strong, like physically.
Yeah,
so
I will agree. That's true. Before we move on to What If, one last thing. Sorry, we should probably talk about the post-credit scenes. Let's start with the ones with Kit Harington when he sees the sword. I don't think it's a secret that he's Black Knight and Blade. We hear Mahershala Ali.
A lot sooner than I thought. A lot sooner than I thought he would appear.
I thought that would be a way further down the line thing. I thought we would see Fantastic Four before we saw Blade.
Yeah.
But here we are. So we don't see him. We hear him. He says like one word. But still, it's cool. It's nice to see all of that. I think this also presents a really exciting thing for the MCU because Ethan, have I told you guys about my theory about how Spider-Man will eventually meet the Eternals? Like what that pathway looks like?
No.
Here's my theory. Cersei is an Eternal. Cersei knows Kit Harington's character. Kit Harington meets Blade. Blade hunts Morbius because he's a vampire. And Morbius, via Spider-Verse, meets Tom Holland. I think that's just a weird connection that they're going to make eventually.
That is a weird connection.
But I don't know.
I just think it's cool that they're finally developing like the Midnight Suns corner of the MCU.
Yeah, the dark side of the MCU.
Yeah, so we're getting that with like Moon Knight. I think Blade's gonna appear in that. Probably Black Knight again. You know, we're probably
Werewolf
gonna get
by
Ghost Rider soon. You know, Werewolf by Night.
Ghost Rider.
Starring Gail Garcia Bernal. It's gonna be fucking dope. And it's just something new. They always are able to find a new corner to tap into, especially now that they've acquired all the Fox characters.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
So there's no limits except for what the Sony.
It's literally just what Sony has now, and like I mean they partner with each other.
Yeah.
For Spider-Man at least, so we'll see.
Super cool.
Cool, and all right, Harry Styles is in the MCU. What do you guys think?
It works for the character. I remember the character.
I could see him as Star Fox a little bit.
I remember the character from the comic books, where he was in the Infinity storyline because obviously he's brothers with Thanos, and he didn't really do much in that one. But based on his character in the comic books, this is like the best casting they could do, honestly.
Yeah,
get a really hot guy who's very charismatic.
Yeah, charismatic hot guy, and I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree that Harry Styles is a pretty charismatic hot guy. So, we'll see. Ethan, what do you think about Harry Styles?
I don't know what they're doing.
I don't either. That's
Pip the Troll. Patton Oswalt is Pip the Troll.
That was cool.
That's kind
of
cool.
I love Patton Oswalt.
People are saying that's going to be a thing for Guardians 3.
I think it could be, but that movie is already overstuffed as it is. Same with Thor 4.
Thor 4.
Both of those movies feel overstuffed already. So it's like,
what are they doing? So at the end, they're going to go fight other Eternals. Is that what they're doing?
it's implied.
Okay.
I think like it's hard to really pin down where they're going with each of these characters because, and that's what makes it so exciting because with Shang-Chi you kind of know. With like all of these other Phase 4 properties, you know where they're going because they've kind of telegraphed it to the audience and it's clear. But here it's like what makes it exciting is like you have all these beautiful characters that are very different and they're off on their own separate journeys. There are 3 sections basically. There's the Midnight Sun section, there's the Eternals that are with Harry Styles and Pip, and then there are the Eternals that have been taken by the Celestials.
Yeah.
And I love all that. I love all that.
That ending.
Dude,
Woo.
his hand is so fucking scary. It's so big. Like, seeing that in IMAX, like, genuinely, I think I leaned back in my seat because I'm like, whoa. Yeah, it is.
I saw Eternals in Dolby right in front of the screen. Like, I saw Dune, and I was just like, oh... I felt like I was being taken in by them. I was like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
All right. Boys, let's move on to what if.
Yeah. We got like let's keep it a little faster through what if so we can get more time for Spider-Man because we're running at like 50 minutes right now.
Yeah.
So quick
Ethan,
what if takes because the show doesn't really. Yeah. What if? Pretty neat idea show. I think the execution, especially towards the end, was a little missed the mark just a bit. I don't think this should be a show with an arc. With an arc, a continuity. I think it should just be like the Twilight Zone, just an anthology series. That's all I want from it. You know.
I agree.
My favorite story was either the What If Ultron 1 and
the first part.
And the first part, yeah. What if Ultron won the first part, and what if the Avengers like never assembled, or the murder mystery one? That was my second favorite one.
Yeah,
because those are really like playing with small changes on the MCU and playing with the world in a grounded level. I feel like some of them were just a little bit too out there in how big the changes were. Which is fine, but like, I feel like that's what the comics are for. If I want to see something, a what if show in the MCU, I want to still make it feel like it's in the MCU, you know, like the Party Thor one, like, okay, that's fine. Or let's see, even the T'Challa Star-Lord one, I don't know, that was just like, it didn't feel like it that could happen in the MCU, you know? I don't know. But I thought it was a pretty solid show overall. I thought it was okay. The ending I feel like was rushed. Because I think there's an episode missing from it. Gamora just shows up. We're just like, we never got an episode about you, but that's because of COVID. And I just don't feel like they had the need to bring these characters together, but I feel like there is going to be some sort of payoff to this multiversal team assembling. So we'll see. What do you guys think?
For me, like, I think What If was I think a show that is doing a lot more than it needs to. I think it's a very promising idea. I think it's a really cool idea. The idea of like, hey, let's just create a bunch of these Elseworld stories and let's just roll with that. I think that's great. I think because like fans would love it. There's a lot that you could do with that. I really like the zombies episode because I think it's good. That was for me like the What If show at its purest, where it's like, hey, literally, what's the craziest thing we could throw at them? Zombies. Throw zombies in the MCU. Why not? Let's see what happens. And that's the fun part of it because I don't, and it's weird because I don't think that this show should have any larger repercussions on the rest of the universe. I know that that's kind of the point, but it's also like, whatever, like, you know, you can still have like fun adventures go on and like we don't have to worry about that within the larger continuity of the MCU. But I think they do some good stuff, but there's definitely and there are definitely some episodes that stand out a lot more than the others. The whole thing at the end with Ultron, like you guys said, I think episode 1 was great. But dude, they nerfed the shit out of him in episode 2. He's so weak by the end.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. He so suddenly became the greatest threat in the entire multiverse, and then just went out with a fucking USB. Yeah,
And Killmonger.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's light. It's fun. But I wish they would just stick to it. Keep it simple. Anthology series like Ethan said, like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror or whatever. Yeah. Brandon, you?
Even like the comics, I loved the What If comics growing up because it gave us there's the 616 continuity if you're reading all the older Marvel comics, right? That was a very long running series until they decided they could actually reboot it in like the 80s and 90s. So when they got around to we've killed all our characters and we've kind of developed everything further, they were like, what else can we do? And in that time they developed What If? And those stories always are fascinating because they remind me most of what the MCU or the Marvel comics can do with their characters that is so creative. And it's more than just swapping origins, like the first episode of the show. I think this is by far the worst of Phase 4 has had to offer yet. I think there are 4 great episodes of this that stand out. The Doctor Strange one, which we didn't mention yet.
I forgot that one's so good.
It's very good. We have the other 3 that you guys have mentioned. The first part of the finale, which was really, really cool. Then you've got the Zombies episode, which spun off its own show, and it's also a very good episode. Does the comic run justice, I'd say. Just not as gory, which is fine. It's animated. And then there's the What If the Avengers Died, That's a great episode. Ethan and I both were like, now that's what If should be when we watched it. Because the first 3 episodes or first 2 episodes were they're fine. But like we talked about when we were talking about Hawkeye and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's sometimes fine doesn't cut it. Especially when you're just consistently producing 7s and 8s out of 10s. And we're big fans, so you're going to get that out of us as long as you tell us a good story and have enough to communicate there. Also, pacing of the show is very whack. The way episodes are structured, at least certain episodes, it's like they took a 90-minute movie idea for a What If and then they condensed it to 24 minutes, and then it felt like they were rushing beats just to get to it that would parallel the movies in some way. And the best episodes were the Doctor Strange one because it didn't have to do that. And the Zombies episode, which didn't really have that sort of formula. The finale was different in its structure, but it felt that way in the second half, so I'm kind of not including it. And then the Avengers one did feel very similar, it was jumping too quick. But those 2 episodes did really well with the pacing, but the pacing threw me off, and the animation was a mixed bag. I love the action and the way certain characters looked, but I don't know about the way the mouths moving looked. I thought it looked poor.
You know what they should have done? They should have done it like Spider-Verse. Different universe, different kind of animation.
I think that's a good idea.
I think that would have been way
That would have
cooler.
been nice. But I think
like what they did for
incredibly hard.
Visions.
That would have been
like what they did for Star Wars Visions,
Yeah.
which I haven't seen
Different
yet.
Visions. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, since Brandon brought it up, Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Why don't we jump right into Spider-Man: No Way Home, and
We're just gonna skip to the.
Let's
Yeah.
start to the very end because may as well. The post-credit scene of Spider-Man: No Way Home is basically a trailer for Doctor Strange into the multiverse. Sorry, into the multiverse.
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness. Into the multiverse, whatever. Yes.
Good title.
So yes, he's in that movie. Assuming that's him.
Supreme Strange.
It probably is Supreme Strange. Yeah. So What If has large repercussions for the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you guys have anything you want to say about that trailer? I'm excited to see Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange interact. I don't know.
Give me
Just got me excited. That's about it. Yeah.
Give me live action Ross McQuaid or McCord's Ultron from What If. I love that dude. Although, like, they nerfed him too much, and I don't know how you could make that a compelling battle until, like, if they did that way down the line, I'd love that so much.
Awesome.
That also, the thing that also explains why What If is, like, voice actors changing. You could, like, totally bring in other actors to play Avengers as just variants, which is, like, MCU has effectively gotten rid of any plot hole by introducing this multiversal element. And I'm excited for this movie, but I'm scared now because of No Way Home. Because I like the movie, but I'm very lukewarm on it. Very lukewarm on a lot of things. So I'm scared that, and starting to become cynical about what the audience wants. And I know that shouldn't affect my opinion of the art, but it is starting to. So
yeah. Well, let's dive into the meat of Spider-Man No Way Home. Who wants to start? I don't even know where to begin with this. Okay. Well, I guess why don't I start with I thought the movie was good. I really enjoyed myself. I thought it was a lot of fun. As a lifelong Spider-Man fan, growing up with Tobey Maguire and being in my adolescent age throughout with Andrew Garfield, and now into my young adult life with Tom Holland, it's a journey. It was a great journey. It was really. I mean, okay. Well, let's start with. Yes, they are in that movie.
Spoilers.
The leaks were true.
We should have said at the beginning of the episode we're spoiling all of this stuff.
I'm pretty sure.
And now maybe we said that. I don't remember, but
yeah, I think I remember we talked about this, about how, like, my experience with watching this movie, unfortunately, was very largely damaged by leaks, spoilers, and I think the world over theorized about this. We did too much talking, and by the time that it happened, it was expected, and I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
And I know I'm in the minority. I think all of us are in the minority in the sense of, like,
we liked it. We didn't love it.
Yeah, we all liked it. We didn't fall in love with it. But so I thought it was really fun. The adventure itself it's a big love. This movie really is just a big love letter to Spider-Man, like, as a whole, not only as a character, but, like, the generations of Spider-Man fans. There's a little bit of everything for people to enjoy. The villains are great. I think no one would disagree that Willem Dafoe gives it his all in this performance. I think he really, really carried it with this. Certain actors, I think, stood out a lot more than others. I did laugh at knowing that the actor for Sandman and Lizard did not make it for the shoot, so they just revoiced it and used recycled footage, which I don't know about you guys, but I've seen those. I know those movies like the back of my hand, so I recognized the footage that they used. I don't know. It was fun. I had a lot of fun. We'll get into the ending of that movie in a little bit once we give our initial thoughts, but I had a great time. It's a fun adventure, I do wish I went into that movie with less expectations and less knowledge about what could happen, because I think that really affected it. But looking back, great time, fun time. That's all I wanted that's usually all I want out of a movie, and they delivered, and I had a good time. I don't know which one of you guys wants to go next.
Brandon,
I go because I don't want to.
You have an interesting journey with this film.
I do. I watched this movie. I was really excited for this movie, and I'm not a big Spider-Man fan. But the idea and the anticipation for this movie got me. Like, it got me, and I was, like, determined to see this movie without spoiling as much as I could. And there was stuff that I saw that got out before the movie, but I didn't click on any errant links. I kind of figured that certain things would happen, but it just didn't surprise me. I actually really liked the first half of the movie, which is, like, an unpopular opinion. Like, I'd say a lot of people are like, the first half of the movie is really bad, and then the second half is actually really good. And that brings it up for them. But for me, I think the first half of the movie kind of highlights this character's journey in, like, a beautiful way. It's very grounded and small scale. I love seeing Tom Holland's Spider-Man, like, grapple with like his own mistakes, meaning they're not real mistakes, but like the way that they're presented to the public, they are. And I think that's so interesting to see Spider-Man unmasked in this world, because he is the only character with anonymity in this universe. And to see that taken away and have him be like a minor is something more interesting than like a Tony Stark, who can obviously handle it with like press, how he can handle the press. He's a playboy. And seeing that affect his friends and family is really interesting. His college admissions, I would have like loved a story focused on that as like a small scale thing. But when he does go to Doctor Strange, it does work. It still works for me that they open up this multidimensional rift, and he has to fight these cosmic bad guys that are like parallel universe versions, right? And they're all great in this movie except for Lizard and Sandman to an extent. But I think they all work there well. But then as soon as it starts to get to, I know it's quintessential Spider-Man for him to help them and have that boyish optimism. Mm-hmm. But it just did not work for me the first time I watched it. The second time it worked slightly better, knowing it was coming. But the tonal switch that happens feels so jarring and out of place for me. It feels like it's getting serious dramatically, and then they hit the pause button on the dramatics for like about 15 to 20 minutes. And it's like all comedy and stuff. And then as soon as they get to Happy Hogan's condominium and Doctor Strange is locked up in the mirror dimension, that's where the movie started to lose me. And with the audience reaction, my God, did it ruin the movie for me the first time we watched it. And that didn't happen for Endgame or for Infinity War.
I think I know why. Endgame and Infinity War, their movies were paced and built to expect those moments. Spider-Man No Way Home was not. Like, you're not given any time to breathe, or there's no momentum built into these supposed big reveals or anything. So like when Matt Murdock shows up, like they just go at it, and you can't hear what's going on in the scene because people are cheering. If you want to build something that's like that the filmmakers know is going to be super monumental to the fans and the audience, make it that, make sure there's room for us to breathe when those moments happen. But yeah, I feel like with Toby and Andrew, like it's this very awkward scene of walking through a portal, and it's so lame.
I'm Spider-Man
through a portal, like
it was so lame.
Reveals through portals. Yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah.
We already did that, bro.
No, I'm nervous about Multiverse of Madness because they're gonna do that with like some X-Men characters, or like Tom Cruise's Iron Man or something like that.
And I'm thinking I think Ethan, that's such a good point, because I can totally imagine like for example, the reveal of Toby and Andrew, like they could have done something so cool where like what if like Tom Holland's character is getting beat up by Goblin, and then like, I don't know, you see like a web fly in from nowhere, you look over, there's a silhouette, and then like a light hits it, and then it's Toby. I don't know, there's ways to, like you said, build that momentum so that the reveal is so much more.
It doesn't even have to be a fight scene.
Or what if their reveal was when like Tom Holland Spider-Man was on the roof of his high school, and she's like, hey, I found some people that want to talk to you. And it's that shot of them on the roof, of them attached to the roof, and they come down. Clearly it would have been changed a certain way since it was the first time seeing him, but something during that important of a scene would have been great, instead of Ned learning how to use magic and it's being in his mom's dining room or something,
Yeah.
I agree, because when I still don't like that scene, their introductory scene. I think it's the weakest thing in the movie. I know a lot of people are going to disagree because they had a great time watching it, but it feels so ham-fisted and forced, and like honestly, like very cringeworthy at times. Like there's a lot of dialogue in this movie that is directly mentioning things that happened in the other movies, and sometimes it's cute and fun, and sometimes it is annoying as hell. And not only that, the movie forgets what to do with Ned and MJ forgets to give them something important to do. So, of course, that's the only way to bring it in is to introduce these other Spider-Men because they're set up in the beginning of this movie to be important characters. And in the trilogy, they're his best friends, his girlfriend. And then, like, they're mitigated to, we're going to help you find these villains, which is great. But then they disappear, and then they're like, we want to find Peter, and then they summon him through magic via these two alternate persons. It feels so, like, lazy, and I feel like contrived. I know Ethan says it's a little too strong of a word, but it does feel like that to me, where it's like they wanted this to happen, and it's very cool. Like, I love certain aspects of their interactions with one another. It's very cool to see alternate versions of these characters, especially ones we grew up watching, hang out together. But that moment for me just did not work. Like, the stuff that worked for me was when they were on the Statue of Liberty. I think that stuff was really good. I don't think the science stuff was that great, and I didn't think the Ned's grandma stuff was pretty good, but like the stuff on the Liberty was good.
But I am glad that we got more than just action sequences with them.
I agree with that. Yeah, the rooftop scene with them is pretty good too.
I was fully expecting they would just be in the third act battle, and the fact that we got like 3 like solid scenes, three not solid in terms of quality, but 3 solid like actual scenes with them before
where they're talking.
Where they're talking, and then like a scene after that's good. Okay, it may seem that I didn't like this. Toby should have died. It maybe it seems like I didn't like this one. I actually thought this one was great. I find it really interesting that what I love the most about this finale to this origin trilogy, like.
It's the origin, bro.
This is the origins. This is the MCU origin story for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like for the first Spider-Man, it took 1/3 of a film, for him to become Spider-Man. This took 3 movies. We really got to spend time with Peter Parker before we get to know him as this iconic Spider-Man that we know.
Not just 3 movies, Ethan. Keep in mind we have Civil War, Infinity War, and then
6 movies.
6.
6 movies. Wow. Yeah, it's incredible.
Like, that last scene, I think everybody, even if you're not like the biggest fan of this movie, like will agree that last scene is fantastic because it does such a great job of not only resetting things and giving us something fresh to look forward to in the future, but ties up the knot a little bit and makes things like a nice little bow at the end to be like, all right, that's the end of this story. Let's go on to the next one.
And they can do small scale stuff.
Exactly.
Too.
Like by the end of the movie, he moves into his apartment. Reminds me a lot of Tobey Maguire's apartment in his Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
He builds his new suit and swings out into Rockefeller Center in New York City during Christmas. And when that music is swelling, I remember like being struck by this moment of realization where I realized this was all one giant origin story where Spider-Man fought Thanos before he really became Spider-Man. And I don't know, there was something really inspiring about that and kind of exciting to know that like we're gonna get more of this, but also it's not gonna be the same. But that's good, and I don't want it to be the same. We've had enough of the home shit.
Yeah.
Also, the home titling is fucking annoying.
I think it's funny.
Now we're gonna get probably a whole trilogy of films like Spider-Man 2, like of Raimi's Spider-Man 2. We're now entering in that arc, which is crazy.
But I don't think they're going to be MCU tied in as much as you think. I mean, the first one will be because he'll be in. They're setting up Secret Wars for 1, and 2. I think the first one will take place in the MCU. I don't know. I think they're setting up a multiversal sort of thing with him, and I don't care too much about the multiverse after Multiverse of Madness, where it goes, other than Secret Wars.
Well, I think after Kang, because
Yeah. I'm just worried now because they have these big lofty concepts and they're not necessarily they're biting off more than they can chew with most of their properties, and that's like the issue.
Yeah.
And you can see the writing is sort of there for certain aspects. You can see that their action is most definitely there. It's the MCU, for God's sake. And their characters are there, but there are aspects of it that they're like missing, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot to like about this movie. Like, I know we're not going to talk about it too much, but Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina are really good in this movie.
They're so good.
Yeah.
It's like they never left. The other 3, it's like, they're okay.
And they're already like, they kind of never left either, but like we didn't really like them to begin with, so we're like, okay, like all right. But these two, they're still, honestly, Willem Dafoe is like, he is better in this movie than he was in Spider-Man 1. You know, Alfred Molina's on the same level, but Willem Dafoe,
I would honestly agree,
elevated in this movie to make Green Goblin like he's supposed to be a cornerstone Marvel villain, you know? Yeah. And he proved that in this movie, that he is like a cornerstone MCU villain for the villain that created Spider-Man the way he is, you know?
Even if Aunt May's death didn't work for me, his role in the movie did. 100%. Like, the costume's right, his psychopathy is great.
Like, I think it's so good. Like the what's it, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It's played just as well as Raimi did it in his movies, although there it felt more like he was like directly playing with that Jekyll and Hyde, whereas here it felt more like nuanced, you know? It didn't feel Shakespearean. It felt like a split personality, like the movie like, Split.
You can feel like Norman's remorse when he snaps back into being Norman. Like there really is a split personality situation going on here.
Yeah,
and I think that's great. That brings a lot of humanity to Goblin as well, because it's like you literally two people living in one body and they shift on a dime, and I think that's really great. Yeah.
Super,
all right. Anything else you guys want to throw out for Spider-Man before we close things out?
One thing that I like that this film does is like that I also think Spider-Verse does is it takes this really cool formal element of utilizing the multiverse to pull out the iconography of Spider-Man outside the frame of the film and discuss it with its audience. I feel like it does that a lot in this film. By questioning what does it mean to be Spider-Man, and eventually we understand what that is by the end of the film, sort of as a reflexive question it acts upon itself because of the last two films and how they were sort of received by by like fans who didn't really see that as their Spider-Man, but like, okay, so let's take back what it means to be a Spider-Man. And let's move forward with that idea, you know? And they use that in a reflexive way of pulling him out to really take a look at himself by seeing different versions of himself and different versions of, versions of villains from an alternate universe. And, like, I just think that's so cool to have a multiverse story as the final thing to sort of set Spider-Man on to a path to being the Spider-Man that has become a cultural icon, you know? And, like, it's amazing. Just like Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man. Super cool.
Andrew Garfield is really good in this. The ending's really good. Venom's in this movie. What more could you want, I guess?
Yeah. What more?
It literally is like you literally, I don't know if it's physically possible to ask for more from this movie. It brought a lot.
It didn't disappoint in the traditional sense for me. I just think they fumbled a lot of the execution. I don't think they fumbled putting these characters in. They succeeded in doing that. That's a fact. They put them in. I think they just fumbled the execution. But it's not a bad movie. It's just mid.
It's not mid. You gave it 3.5. That's good.
It's mid-bottom MCU. Mid-bottom MCU. I would still... I still think it... I don't think it's going to age very well, if I'm being honest.
I think it will. Once we sort of see Parker's arc play out more, we're gonna look back at this movie as like this was a big moment in his like life, and that's gonna be, it's gonna be like Age of Ultron, where this is gonna have big ramifications for this dude's life, but on a more personal scale than like a more of like a say political one in terms of the Avengers relationships, you know.
Well, then I have rated them the same, and I would probably put them together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, they're
very similar movies.
Yeah, they kind of are.
Mid, do too much. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Alrighty. Well, that's 2021 of Marvel. We talked about them all.
I'm super excited about next year.
Next year. What is everyone's most anticipated? Is it Doctor
Avatar
Strange?
2.
Avatar 2. Of
Avatar 2 is so exciting.
Avatar 2? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good, dude.
I'm so excited.
I'm
of
so
Marvel, you assholes.
All right,
Not Avatar
let's
2.
know what's coming. What is coming out next year? So
Thor.
Doctor
It's my most
Strange.
anticipated.
Doctor Strange,
Miss
Thor,
Marvel. Moon Knight, Thor, She-Hulk,
Black Panther.
Black
maybe.
Panther 2, maybe. I don't think so. Werewolf
that's
by
it.
Night
Yeah,
think that's
and the Guardians holiday special.
and Guardians and I Am Groot. That animation.
Who cares about that? Who cares
Hey,
about that?
it's gonna be top. Watch you put that as your top 5 by the end of next year. What?
No.
Just you wait.
I'm most excited for Thor. I love that storyline. It's got the Guardians in it. It's gonna have
Christian Bale's in
Valkyrie.
it.
Christian Bale's gonna be good in it. They're gonna introduce the Greek gods. Probably like a Hercules, Beta Ray Bill sort of like introductory in that movie. It's stuffed, but that movie has the potential to be like one of the best Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Jane Foster Thor. Jane Mighty Thor, as they say.
The Mighty Thor. Yeah, super fun. Alrighty, well,
Cool.
we're clocking in an hour, almost an hour 20, a little over. I think that's a good point to wrap up this episode of After Hours. Thank you all for listening, whoever stuck around for this little talk about these little Marvel
movies.
men talk about Marvel. You know, I feel like we were just like, have you seen that SNL skit of like the dog park for husbands?
No.
There's this new
No.
SNL skit where it's like they advertising like a dog park, but for like lonely husbands, and like a bunch of guys come together. They go, Marvel, 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 and I feel like that was us for an hour, for a near hour and a half. So thank you all for bearing with us. I know my girlfriend's not going to listen to this episode, but
She
anyways,
doesn't love.
that's the one little hinge in this that she doesn't like about. Anyways.